Anybody using an external camera?
Good evening, everyone.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Hey, Bill.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Well, Mike has an interesting setup tonight
Yeah, a long range shot there.
with a computer right in front of him.
I wonder
Yeah,
where his cats are.
External camera. I'm using an external camera and this is
Oh,
and everything like that, but I can't seem to get the zoom control.
I have 5:58 on my clock. We'll start it when my clock reaches 6.
Sounds good. I don't see Art here yet. I don't remember. Did he say he wasn't going to?
Yes, Art will not be
Yeah.
in attendance tonight. He's picking his daughter up at the airport.
He did say,
Okay.
he did send something saying
Yep.
he couldn't make it.
All right.
Yeah, I talked to him today.
Glad he didn't forget like I did the other night.
Seems to be running around, doesn't it?
It happens.
COVID brain. Definitely.
easy
COVID
enough
brain.
to do.
So Paul, you got the email about the Gallipo items also being continued.
I did, yes. I did. So we have 5 items being continued, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Let's make it a dozen.
The TRC or the zoning board. Can anybody?
Struggling to hear you, Mike.
Yeah? Can you hear me?
You keep
No, I
breaking.
guess
You're
not.
breaking up.
I have 6 o'clock. Are all our communications all set, Ron?
I think as far as everybody that's going to be on, I think we're here.
Okay, well, this meeting will come to order. This is a regular meeting of the planning board. And because it's being conducted on Zoom, I would ask that you raise your hand in the field of view if you wish to speak, and please wait to be recognized. Please identify yourself when either making a motion or seconding a motion. And all votes will be by voice roll call vote. And we will start by taking attendance by roll call. Mr. Pirrick,
Present.
Mr. Chumo,
Present.
Mrs. Owen.
Present.
Mr. Weber is absent this evening. Mr. Fenton,
Here.
looks like we're at a long distance here, Mike. It takes long for sound to travel.
I think I'm wearing glasses.
Mr. Nash,
Present.
and I am here. So the first item on this evening's agenda are the minutes, the approval of minutes. May I have a motion to accept the minutes of the regular meeting of December 9th?
So moved,
So
Bill
moved.
Nash.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to accept the minutes of December 9th. Is there any discussion? I have 2 comments on these minutes. At the top of the page, I believe it should say a regular meeting rather than a special meeting.
Correct.
And on page 4, item 28, the vote should be 5-2, not 6-2.
Got it. Okay, we'll make those corrections.
As the maker of the motion is willing to amend the motion to accept those changes?
Yes.
Any further discussion? Mr. Pyrick?
Aye.
Mr. Chumo?
Aye.
Mrs. Owen?
Aye.
Mr. Fenton? Mr. Nash?
Yes.
And I vote aye. Minutes are approved. Next are the minutes of the special meeting of December 1st. We have a motion to approve these minutes.
So
So
moved,
moved.
Bill Nash.
Bill made the motion. BJ, you seconded it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. There any discussion? Mr. Pyrick,
Aye.
Mr. Chumo,
Aye.
Mrs. Owen,
Aye.
Mr. Fenton. Mike, are you there?
Yes, I'm gonna go. This is,
Mr. Nash,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Those minutes are accepted. Next are the minutes of the special meeting on January 7th. May I have a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved, Bill Nash.
Second, John Schumo.
Motion's made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Mr. Pyrick,
Aye.
Mr. Chumo,
Aye.
Mrs. Owen,
Aye.
Mr. Fenton. Have we temporarily lost him?
Mike left and I think he's gonna try to get back in. I don't see him yet, though.
We have a quorum. Let's continue the vote. Mr. Nash,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Those minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is correspondence. We have no correspondence to receive. Is that correct, Ron?
The only thing that we did receive was the memo from the town engineer and the public works director today regarding the Gallipo items. You might just vote to receive that memo.
Okay. Did everyone receive that memo? The memo from the
Yes.
town engineer?
Yes.
Yes.
Hold on one second while I get it in front of me.
Motion to receive?
Hold on one second. This is a memo dated January 13th, to the town planner from the town engineer and the acting DPW director concerning the request for waiver from bond reduction without having asphalt binder course in place. Peter Gallipo, developer Saltwood subdivision, AP 126, lot 4, phase 2.
Motion to
I have a
receive.
motion to receive this correspondence.
So moved.
Second, John Schumo.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Mr. Pyrick,
Aye.
Mr. Chumo,
Aye.
Mrs. Owen,
Aye.
Mr. Fenton. He's still in the process of joining us.
Yeah, he's there, but he's not, so.
Yeah. Mr. Nash,
Aye.
and I vote aye. That correspondence is received. The next item on the agenda are the continuances. The items to be continued this evening are items 4A, 4B, 4C, 5B, and 5C. Item 4A, a public hearing. Application of Jack Gullison for development plan review, including requests for waivers from certain design standards of the Middletown Rules and Regulations, regarding the subdivision and development of land, section 521, for construction of a new commercial building to include an 18-room hotel with a restaurant and associated site work located on property identified as 59 Aquidneck Avenue, Assessors Plat, 115 SE, Lot 169. May I have a motion to continue this item to the next regular meeting of February 10th?
So moved, Bill Nash.
Second, BJ.
Is there anyone here to speak on this?
I was just looking at the list. Jay Lynch is the attorney on that item, and I don't see him on. So I think he's been advised that the matter would be continued because we're still waiting for copies of the revised plans to be submitted.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Mr. Pyrick,
Aye.
Mr. Chumo,
Aye.
Mrs. Owen,
Aye.
Mr. Fenton,
Aye.
Mr. Nash.
Can you hear me?
Yes, all
Aye.
set. Mr. Nash,
Okay.
Aye.
and I vote aye. That item is continued. Item 4B, public hearing, request of James Paradise, owner of property at 170 Aquidneck Avenue, plat 115 SE, lots 145, 146, 147, for waiver of development plan review pursuant to section 908 of the Middletown Rules and Regulations regarding the subdivision and development of land. May I have a motion to continue this item to the February 10th meeting?
Paul, before you do that, is there anybody, I'd rather hear from anybody who's anybody who's representing them to request a continuance before we actually make a motion, because once we make the motion, second discussion, then we really shouldn't have the input from the applicant.
Is there anyone here to speak on this item?
No, we received a communication from the attorney, Mr. Galvin, on this item requesting the continuance to February 10th.
Motion to continue.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Pyrick,
Aye.
Mr. Chumo,
Aye.
Mrs. Owen,
Aye.
Mr. Fenton,
Aye.
Mr. Nash,
Aye.
and I vote aye. That item is continued to February 10th. Next item is 4C, public hearing. Application of GD Middletown West Main I LLC for development plan review, including request for waiver from certain design standards of the Middletown Rules and Regulations regarding the subdivision and development of land, section 521, and recommendation to the zoning board of review regarding special use permit application for development in zone 1 of the watershed protection district to allow construction of a ground-mounted solar voltaic installation on a property located at 1747 West Main Road, plat 111, lot 9A. Is there anyone here to speak on this?
It doesn't appear that Mr. Lynch or the applicant is on, but we've advised the applicant, similar to the last item, that we're awaiting revised plans to be submitted so that the TRC can complete its review. We haven't yet received those revised plans.
Motion to continue.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to continue this item to the February 10th meeting. Is there any discussion? Mr. Pyrick,
Aye.
Mr. Chumo,
Aye.
Mrs. Owen,
Aye.
Mr. Fenton,
Aye.
Mr. Nash,
Aye.
and I vote aye. That item is continued to the February 10th meeting. The next item is to be continued is 5B, request of Peter Gallipo, Saltwood Farm Development, LLC, for waiver from provisions of the Middletown Rules and Regulations regarding the subdivision and development of land, section 703.8, partial release of security, which require binder course of payment to be installed prior to reduction of performance security for phase 2 of the Saltwood Farm subdivision. Is there anyone to speak on this item?
Do not see Mr. Gallipo on, but we did receive an email from him this afternoon requesting that this matter be continued to the February 10th meeting.
Motion to continue.
second,
Motion's made and seconded to continue item 5B to the February 10th meeting. Is there any discussion? Mr. Pyrick,
Aye.
Mr. Chumo,
Aye.
Mrs. Owen,
aye,
Mr. Fenton,
aye,
Mr. Nash,
Aye.
and I vote aye. That item is continued to February 10th. The next item to be continued is 5C. Request of Peter Gallipo, Saltwood Farm Development LLC for reduction of performance security held by the town for Phase 2 of the Saltwood Farm subdivision.
Motion to continue.
second,
Motion is made and seconded to continue this item to the February 10th meeting. Is there any discussion? Mr. Pyrick,
Aye.
Mr. Chumo,
Aye.
Mrs. Owen,
aye,
Mr. Fenton,
aye,
Mr. Nash,
Aye.
and I vote aye. That item is continued to the February 10th meeting. Now, just give me a minute here to get myself organized. Next item on the agenda is item 4D, public hearing. Application of Newport County YMCA for development plan review, including requests for waivers from certain design standards of the Middletown Rules and Regulations regarding the subdivision and development of land, section 521, to allow renovation and expansion of an existing building located on property at 792 Valley Road, plat 115, lot 1. I believe the public hearing is still open on this item, so there's no need for a motion. Who is here to speak for this item?
Well, we've got Mr. Amoroso, the architect, Mr. Miller, who is representing the Y, and I'm looking for Bob Silva, who's the attorney, and I don't see him on the list. So, Steve, do you know if Bob was going to be on, or Mike, do you know?
Yeah, Bob and Dave Martlin are supposed to be on.
Oh, okay, I saw Dave's name. Hold on.
Got his hand up.
Yep, yep. I'll let Dave hear.
There's David.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hi, Dave.
Yes, yeah.
Hi, how are you? Yes, Bob is supposed to be joining as well. I'm not sure if he's doing it from his phone. That number would be 401-862-8587.
Yeah, we don't have him. We don't have any phones.
Okay.
So,
Well, if he's not here, I still think we can certainly move forward.
sure.
Thank you for getting together this evening for the continuation of this hearing. I know that the board took testimony at a prior hearing on this application. Let me switch this view here. Since then, the client has taken into consideration the comments from the prior hearing with respect to the design. They've gone back, discussed it with the board as well as other constituents, their board of directors, I should indicate, and other constituents to see how we might be able to bridge any gap relative to the design of the building while still meeting in both the intent and spirit of the guidelines, the commercial design guidelines for the town. We've submitted some revised plans to the board for your consideration that I think really reflect some of the concerns that were raised in trying to take this facility and the product and better incorporate some of those elements. Steve Amoruso is with us this evening, who can walk through those items. And I would ask Steve to have the ability to share his screens so that we can walk through and go through that.
Yep, he should be able to go ahead right now and share his screen.
Dave, this is Mike Miller. Hello, planning board members. Bob said he's in a waiting room that it says waiting to be approved to get on. He just texted me. Just wanted to let you know. I'm not sure if you see him in the waiting room.
There's no waiting room for a webinar, so I'm not sure where he might be. Rita, do you have any idea where?
What I'll
Bob
do
might-
is I will text him a link so that he can join us.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we're actually,
Let's,
I'll just mute.
Let's pause for a moment.
He may have
So-
clicked on the wrong meeting link or something.
Ron, while we're waiting for that, can you add Dave Prengerman and Mike Russell to be able to be on the screen to speak?
Yeah, here's David, and I don't see Mike Russell.
LDEC, maybe, I don't know what it comes up as. He was planning to attend. No? Okay.
Site design, it might be on the site design, Ron.
Yeah, let me try that.
How are you doing with Bob, Dave?
I'm just trying to pull up the link on my phone so I can
Thank you.
get that over to him. I'm just,
Hey, so Stephen, these are the plans that Ron sent us dated the 7th of January that we're going to be reviewing?
Yes, the brick design.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So once we get Bob on, I can share my screen and then we can go through that.
Mike Russell, is this you identified as site design?
I think you're on mute, Mike. It is Bob.
there's that. Agenda.
Bob's on, David.
Can you hear now?
Yeah.
Oh, he is?
Okay.
Okay.
All set? Good.
Bob, can you hear us?
I am having real difficulty getting through. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay, I mean, I've been shut out. I don't know what's happening. I asked David to proceed with the project, but I'm here and I'm prepared to address any concerns of the board. Essentially, the engineering and all the reports for traffic and real estate have been prepared and submitted to the board. And I would ask that the board accept Nate Godfrey and Paul Bannon's reports as part of the record. And we ultimately, the most recently filed document was the revised renderings and elevations showing the front of the building as proposed, the side of the building, and the changes that were implemented by Steve Amoruso and Ben, his associate. And we submitted that to the board saying that we've made a concerted effort to try to redesign things and bring about a design on the outside of the building that would be acceptable to the board. So I don't know whether or not you've had a chance to look at that in depth, and I'm not going to try to describe the changes, except to say that Steve Amoruso is available with his associate to describe the changes that now essentially have removed a lot of the prior material and added brick to the building itself, so that the building now has a brick veneer rather than a stone front, and the windows are less predominant than they were before, and the roof line still been adjusted so that everything can look a little bit different. We trust that that would be acceptable to the board. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
fine, Bob.
Yeah, I had given a brief introduction, Bob, just before you were able to
Yeah,
join.
and go right ahead.
And we were
Continue,
going
David.
to, yeah, we were just turning it over to Steve to do his presentation on the materials.
Good. I'm sorry for the interruption, but I just couldn't get through on the technology here. But I can see David now and I can hear him, but just proceed. David can go forward with Steve.
All right. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So just wanted to quickly recap what we did here. Seems like my screen is frozen, so bear with me. So we've made no significant plan changes from the previous design. We made a minor change to the stairs here at the back exit adjacent to Valley Road. Other than that, we adjusted window sizes and exterior materials. So what we submitted was the same angles of the renderings that we submitted on the first one. So as you would look, we have a rendering that's located when you kind of first pull up the drive and looking at the building at this corner. We have another rendering that looks back kind of on your approach from the parking lot. And those are our two main renderings. We've also supplied a marked up rendering that has a few comments on there that talked about the design elements that we changed and how we feel that that helps to address the comments that we received at the last meeting. So this is the revised design. This is the shot or the view that's from the entry drive, looking at the main corner of the building, which would be wellness center above and multi-purpose space below. And this would be our main entry feature here. Let me go back one. So you can see in here, as we pointed out on a few occasions, we took the comments that we received at the last meeting, went back and re-examined our exterior design. We chose to introduce a brick element, which is a very traditional element. We worked with the coursing and the design of the brick, not to get too deep into it. We also looked at the patterning of the windows. There was a lot of discussion about the windows being very busy. We simplified those, and we feel that the simplification of these windows starts to tie the entrance and the design throughout the facility. We've also eliminated some of the windows along the lower level to create more of a traditional look. We've adjusted the colors. We've removed all the metal panel from the job. And we've introduced a hip roof here at the main entrance, which we can see here. Get to the next page. We can see that here a little bit better. So on the approach from the parking lot, we have a hip roof here. We've gone to more of a traditional canopy with tied backs at this front entrance. And we've instituted or brought about a design that is more of a 1/3, 2/3 split. So the top half of the design is the shiplap siding that we introduced on the previous project, on the previous design. And those elements are reflected throughout the whole front of our design here. These elements are also tied back into the work that's going to be done at the recladding of the existing gymnasium, as well as the design and of the rest of the squash courts that wraps around back to the swimming pool. So if you look at the floor plans, just to kind of recap, we've talked about this the last time, but just to give you a refresher, our redesign goes from this point here, which is the back edge of the swimming pool, all the way around. We're going to reclad the gymnastics center right now, which is per the most recent renovation last year, has a kind of a temporary exterior covering on it right now. And that'll be addressed by this project and wrap all the way back to the back corner, which is the location where the daycare center begins. And that's a lower piece of the project. So as we go through the design here, we can point out, as you all have this plan with the comments on it, we started to help to discuss these elements. We introduced a stronger cornice, which gives the building more presence, a very traditional look. We simplified the windows. We introduced brick, and we tried to enhance the detail. It was one of the other items that we talked about in the last meeting, by the use of reveals and details in the brick, and really try to bring that design alive. And really, from a distance, it's not as apparent, but as you approach it, you get a whole nother level of appreciation for the design. So not to get too deep into it, but we would love to have comments and discussion regarding the design changes and elements that were used.
Does the project team have other comments to make before we open it up?
No, I don't believe we have anything further to add with respect to that, Mr. Chairman. I think that this was really the one open issue, unless there were other comments or questions for the members of the team.
The other things that were provided since, we were continued from the last meeting, but I guess the prior meeting, the planning board had requested a couple of details, which I think Mike Russell provided, if he's available to pop those up on the screen. There was the crosswalk discussion, providing a raised crosswalk, and then also the details of the retaining wall and fencing along the field up above the building. So I don't know if you want to have Mike talk about those.
Mike, do you want me to stop my share and you can use it?
Yeah, give me 1 second to grab that those figures. If the board members want to address the building and with questions and with Steve.
Are there any comments from members of the planning board?
Yeah, I had a question on the.
Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you. I don't have the plan in front of me. I'm on digital on the town site. I understand the nature of the materials for the new addition, but can you just clarify what material you're using for the cladding for the existing, I guess, gymnasium center or the gymnastics center and the squash court? What cladding is it?
It's a cement-based cladding. It's a hardy board material and a shiplap. So we produce. We're looking to provide that material to help with the long-term maintenance of the facility. It gives a very traditional look, but we're looking to use that material so that we can enhance the durability and the maintenance level of the facility. As you can see, the existing wood siding has not held up that well.
No, I understand that, Stephen. Thank you. Just I was just wanting to know if it was the same material. It's I have no issue with it being hardy plank, but it's the same design. You're going to get the same look, the same reveal, I guess, the same.
Yes. Yep. So we per the last comments, we went into our renderings and we enhanced the the reveals and the detail in our rendering so that you can really get that next level of interest in the project. So.
Okay. Mike Fenton, did you have a question?
Well, since the last time we met with these with the project team, they submitted 2 plans, revised plans for the design of the building, and just wondering why the first one was withdrawn and another one was substituted.
Bob, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. The reason I asked for continuance and an opportunity to review and revise the plan was because we're dealing not with a single client. I don't have Mr. X that I represent. I represent a nonprofit corporation that consists of a board of directors, an executive board, and a group of a foundation supporters that are financially invested in the program. When we showed the last set of renderings, the second renderings, as I like to describe it, some of the members of the board of directors and some of the supporting financial members thought that they would like to make changes and were not happy with what we had submitted. That's why we went back to the drawing board. That's why Steve did what he's done and explained the result to you today. And I then took these last plans, the 3rd edition, so to speak, which met with the approval of the full board of directors, the executive board, and the donors and the supporters of the program. They signed off on it, and that's what I sent into the planning board with the hope that the planning board would be able to review this. There was nothing other than a lack of having connected in the final instance with the board of directors and the supporting contributors to get a sign off. And when we went back to do that, we found that there was some concern as to what we were presenting, and we ended up putting their thoughts and considerations into the design. And Steve Amoruso and Mike Miller, the exec, worked with the boards and the contributors to come up with a design that's acceptable to all on our side of the street.
Any other comments from members of the board?
John Schumo, Paul.
Go ahead, John.
I know that the second rendering that we saw was essentially ideas taken from the ones on the Y and Hyannis, where they tried to fit in with tried to make it fit in with what Hyannis is looking for. And we all kind of agreed on the planning board. I think we all did that. That's kind of the look that we were looking for. We were willing to make a couple of compromises, but that second rendering looked pretty good to us. And this obviously has nothing to do with that second rendering.
No, this is completely different, but it does have similarities. And I think Steve might be able to share his thoughts on why this 3rd rendering pretty much addresses the concerns of the planning board previously expressed for the second renderings. I can tell you without fear of contradiction that I'm bound as the attorney for the project with the client's wishes. This is not a private corporation, a business coming into town to make money and profit, okay? This is a social agency that serves the social needs of the community of Aquidneck Island and elsewhere. Thousands of people come through this, and we have supporters through all kinds of venues and areas. I am now constrained to listen to those people who are prepared to put up significant amounts of money to make this happen. If I can't bring them on board, as well as the planning board, this project, unfortunately, could be dead. And it would be a crime to allow this project, which serves the social community, families in Aquidneck Island and elsewhere, it would be a crime that this renovation of an existing structure in a corporate park that has thousands of buildings with pure flat roofs in a commercial setting, it would be, in my estimation, a tragedy that this were not to be able to go forward with the third design. I'm constrained with the requests and the demands of the people who are going to make this a financial possibility.
The comments from members of the planning board. Mike Fenton.
I appreciate the comments made by Bob, but I just was wondering what the rationale was there. Was their concern the cost of the second rendering? Or
No, it
did
wasn't.
they
In
have
fact,
a different idea of what the design should be?
the third rendering is going to cost $250,000 more with the brick and
Really?
everything else. Oh, yeah. Yep.
So it's
And
it's their judgment on what they would like for the style of the building is that, that they don't agree
Absolutely,
with
Mike.
the,
Yep.
yeah, okay.
They didn't agree with the second rendering. I prefer the second rendering, quite frankly, to be honest with you. But I'm not the
Yeah.
one coming up with $2.5 million to make this project work.
Any other comments from members of the board? BJ?
Yes, I think that this third rendering is excellent. As a matter of fact, I like the second one too. So I don't have any negative feelings about this. I think that the Y is a wonderful asset to our community. And I think we all agree that we're looking to do the best we can.
Joe?
So for the record, I appreciate and understand, Bob, the constraints you communicated about your client. And for the record, this is Middletown. It's not Hyannis or Falmouth. I know we saw an image and there was consensus that was a good design direction. I applaud Steve and the Y team for coming up with what I think is a handsome design with the use of the brick, the hip roof. I love the details in the brick, the reveal, the cornice along the roof line, and appreciate the fact that you guys heard us and have screened the rooftop equipment as best you can. So BJ, I'm there with you. I think it's an amazing, given the constraints, redesign that is definitely worthy of our attention.
Thank you. Other comments from members of the board? Bill?
Yeah, no, I agree, Joe. Just to be clear, the renderings that I'm looking at, because I don't have the ones that were sent to me, it's the same one off the website, Ron, right?
That's right.
Okay,
Yep.
so I'm looking at the right one. I just want to be clear. So yeah, I concur. I believe they've listened to us and they've incorporated some real nice detail with the brickwork, the windows, the corners. I agree. Just for my own edification, relative to the screening on the roof, I'm looking at the west elevation. What
Right.
is that identified as what type of screening it is or how it's constructed? I just want to, is it the similar material? Are there clapboards there or what is that?
It's a representative screen right now. The exact design and materials are still being investigated. More than likely, it'll be they're typically made with it's a solid screen. So we're going to do the best we can to screen it. It's the same screening that we're going to be using on top of the building. You just can't really see that from this angle because it's all set back. But what our intent is to be as non-obtrusive with it. We're going to try to make it subtle in design and subtle in color, so that it'll try to blend it back into the roofs.
All right. So again, I thank you, Stephen. So I do appreciate the effort that you made. I guess my only comment beyond that would be, the old building, the old Y with the I guess the little gable in the front there, the mansard or whatever we call it these days. I almost, because I think I had suggested it last time to, carry that design around. I never really liked it. I don't really like that design on the existing building. I almost wish you could, I almost wish you could just, eliminate that and make it straight and flat all the way around. And I understand you're limited and, money is an object here. So, but you've done a nice job. I give you credit for that. I just, that would be my only issue, but good effort for sure.
So to your point on that, we felt that the design, the way that we have it laid out, gives the building prominence at its entrance. And then as we start to work away from that main entrance, we do a really nice job of improving the exterior elevations, wrapping that around, taking it all the way back to the pool, and providing down the line that the Y is able to raise some more money. The intent is to wrap the rest of the building, but there is no plans to do that right now. I want to make that clear. It is with the failing siding that's on that building, the direction would be that ultimately the Y has a very consistent look.
Yeah, it looks great. Really, thank you again for listening to us and on the design, like Joe said.
Thank you.
Other comments from members of the planning board? Mr. Silva, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I think you can hear me.
Yes, I can. Can
Okay.
you hear me?
Yes, I can, although there's a little noise in the kitchen as we're making ready for supper, and I apologize for that.
That's okay.
What do we
It's
have?
not- I don't have a dog, a cat, or a child running around in back of me, but I'm not in the office. I'm an old dog trying to learn this new trick, and it's very challenging, if you will, for me to present through Zoom. But essentially, all the way back, I got to commend the Y Board of Directors and the Executive Committee and the donors they have put in an enormous amount of time and effort and thought as to what they're going to do here. And they hired the best architects, the best engineers and whatnot, the best traffic engineers, the best real estate people, and they put together all the evidence that I think would be adequate to support a favorable advisory opinion from the planning board to the zoning board. Keep in mind that we do have to have special use permit approval for this project from the zoning board and variance approval for the use of a lot for parking, which is in the corporate name of subsidiary of the People's Credit Union. And we're going to use that parking area for the area for employees to park. But we need permission from the zoning board to have off-site parking. And also there's a couple of parking spaces in that general location adjacent to the People's Credit Union that are closer than 10 feet to the property line. So those technical regulatory variances are being requested along with the special use permit. But as you know, the planning board in these proceedings is being asked to look at the plan, review the design and the architecture, and render an advisory opinion to the zoning board. So that's why we're here tonight, and I trust that the efforts of the board and of directors and the engineers and consultants over the several months that this has been pending meet with the board's approval.
Well, let's get on with it. Before I open it up to the public, I would just like to say that I too preferred the second design over the last design. However, I do appreciate your position. I want to thank you for being responsive to the comments of the planning board and commend you on coming up with a design that much more closely is consistent with the vision of the comprehensive plan. Thank you for doing that.
You're entirely welcome.
Mr. Chairman,
Is there anyone in the public who would like to comment?
Before we open it up to the public, I believe that Ron had wanted Mr. Russell to explain some of the details that had been requested from the prior meeting.
Yes. Yeah.
There are waivers, yes.
Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
Is Mr. Russell on?
He is.
I'm here, Mr. Chairman, so let me attempt to share my screen here. Is everybody picking up the image?
Yes.
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 All right, so last meeting, we had presented some specific details to the board with respect to the driveway, namely, I believe Mr. Nash had wanted to see a detail, an example of what the retaining wall up on the soccer field might look like with a fence or railing for protection. And then I believe a couple of the other board members were curious about what the raised crosswalk might look like in the main driveway. So this particular sketch plan figure shows that typical raised crosswalk detail. Very simple. It's about 3 inches across the raised section, tapering back down to grade with the sidewalk on either side. We have 3 of those as shown in this plan view to the right. I also elected to show, as it was the board's pleasure, to extend the sidewalk to John Clark that we've just provided that here in the left plan view on the left side, just a typical sidewalk section along the driveway. The first plan that I mentioned is the retaining wall up on the soccer field. So it could be a number of different materials. This particular example that I'm showing here is a segmental block wall section with a wrought iron railing or similar to meet building code for protection of people there. So it could be a concrete wall, it could be anything, but the important point is there'll be a railing in association with the wall to meet the building code requirements for commercial use. So I believe that's the only new information that we were asked to present on the civil side from the last meeting.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Russell? Members of the planning board?
Question. Yeah, just a question, Paul.
Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you. Thanks again, Mike, for doing that design. I saw this previous meeting and I'm happy with it. But and everything's good in my eyes up to the last statement you made. You said it could be concrete wall. You're not suggesting that there's not going to be a block wall design there, because I really don't want to see a block. I don't want to see a concrete wall there with a nice fence. You know, I know you have to, you do it, but you got the veneer, you got the block wall veneer. So that's not what you're suggesting, is it? It might be a concrete wall, just a concrete wall.
I'm just suggesting it could be, the material could be anything. Right? The point is it's a retaining wall of some material with a protective railing. So if it's, if it's the wise pleasure to have a segmental block or a, I mean, is the issue the exposed concrete, Billy, or is it?
Yeah, just, I mean, unless it's a finished product, I see concrete as being an unfinished design. And I think the look from what you're seeing, what you're showing with a nice wrought iron rail or similar, matches nicely with a, at least some type of a textured product, whether it's a concrete textured product or a block wall product.
Yeah, I'm sure the Y would want to do that. If it is a poured wall, I'm sure they'll veneer it.
The best example I can give you is St. George's hockey rink. That retaining wall in the front of that building is a concrete wall. It was designed to have a brick veneer on it, but they cut it out at the last minute because it was obviously too costly. But that would have been a nice looking, more even nice looking building had they put a brick veneer on that wall. So that's what I don't want to see, is it be a concrete wall to support the earth, and then walk away because it, without a finished look to it.
Understood.
Any other comments from members of the board? Mr. Russell?
I have one.
Go ahead, BJ.
Yes, this is item number 7 on the information that we were given for the variances. And it says required 10-foot landscape buffer between buildings and parking/driveway, not provided in all locations. I was wondering which locations they were going to be provided in versus the non-locations.
So BJ, you want us to identify which locations don't provide that buffer?
Well, as best as possible.
Okay, sure. Let me share the screen again. Okay. Blow up. Can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
No problem. Okay, so I guess the first area to point out is everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this area here along the building? Steve, might be best if you put your drawings back up, if to give the board a better sense of that from the Valley Road perspective.
Sure. You'll just need to stop your share.
Okay, sorry.
See my screen okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you want to further elaborate, Mike?
Yeah, so just it's a little hard to see because of the projection of landscaping, but there's a walk along that and access into the building along that westerly elevation. So that would be an example of where that can't be met.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, and that's provided there for egress from these lower spaces. When there are certain daycare and after-school programs, they require direct access to the exterior. And this path will also take them right around the gymnastics center and out to the playground. So it's a really nice feature, but there is a lot of landscaping directly in front of it.
So it's kind of shown in reverse where, you may have landscaping against the building and then a walk or some hardscape outside of that, but the hardscape in this case is against the building. So that would require a waiver.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you.
Other comments for Mr. Russell from members of the board? Thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak?
Any member of the public that wishes to speak just needs to hit the raise hand button in the Zoom app and we can recognize you. I see no hands, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded to close the public hearing. Is there any discussion? Mr. Pyrick,
Aye.
Mr. Chumo,
Aye.
Mrs. Owen,
Aye.
Mr. Fenton,
Aye.
Mr. Nash,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Public hearing is closed. Ron, before I accept a motion, can you review what the motion should cover for a favorable recommendation?
Sure. So yeah, this will be a recommendation to the zoning board as it's required. The applicant's required to go to the zoning board for the relief that was discussed by Mr. Silva earlier. So it would be a recommendation subject to at least one recommended condition, which is identified in the memo, and that's related to gaining approval from the appropriate body for the use and alteration to the town-owned property, which is up at the top of the property where the driveway crosses the town land to get to John Clark Road. We talked about that at a prior meeting. And then, so with that one condition, and then there are 9 requested waivers, which I don't know that I'm going to read everyone, but these are the same waivers, basically, not basically, they are the same waivers that were discussed at prior meetings.
So,
Even though,
the same waivers are requested as were requested for the original design that was submitted. Is that correct?
right, because even though the design, the exterior of the building has been revised and redesigned, the materials are still not strictly in compliance with the standards. For example, they're proposing to use hardy plank for siding versus natural wood. So that would be the only thing that has really changed since the last time we talked about the waivers. So there are 9. So one condition, 9 waiver requests, and then the 5 findings.
Well, I'm willing to make that motion, but I question before we get really.
We'll have discussion. We'll have discussion on the motion. Do you want to ask the questions first or make the motion and then raise the question?
It doesn't matter. I think it's a pretty straightforward question. I just would like to have, I don't know if we need to note it somewhere on, and we've seen a lot of different plans. We've talked about 3 different renderings tonight. I think it's understood that it's the last version, but in order to avoid any confusion, can we identify the plan set with a date on it, the most recent plan set that is the plan that we've all agreed to support here?
That's a good idea. I don't have the plan set in front of me, so I don't know what the date on it would be.
The plan set, Ron, that I submitted to you by email and requested that you forward on most recently to the planning board, from my copy, really doesn't have a date on it, but it would be the exact plan that I forwarded by email to you and that you recently distributed to everyone.
Question for Peter, maybe. Peter, can the board just simply reference that the decision is based on the plans presented during the meeting?
That'd be fine, Rob. And
Yeah,
then Bob, if there is a date or a specific date for that plan set that you can get to Ron, he can incorporate that in the decision.
Yeah.
But certainly, I think everyone's aware of that it's the plan set that was presented in this evening and reviewed this evening. So
There are dates on the PDFs, 2021-0106.
Yeah, I would concur with that. I'd say I would move approval based on Ron's layout of the findings waiver requested and the conditions. And just note that stipulating that Ron will identify the appropriate plan set within the final documents.
We have no problem with that. That's perfectly reasonable.
So I move approval based on all of that, and the memo dated Ron's most recent memo on the project.
As Mr. Pyrick was referencing, there is a date on the bottom right-hand corner.
Right.
So that they're dated 01/06/2021. So it's
Right.
the plan's dated January 6, 2021. So that clear up any confusion.
That's fine.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Second, John Schumer.
Is there any discussion? I have one quick question. On the second waiver request, the pedestrian access to the site from the abutting Aquidneck Corporate Park not provided. Could you quickly say why that request is needed?
Okay, that's one that I just missed. Mike pointed out during his review of the revised site plan that sidewalk has now been
extended
added to the plan. So that's a good catch, Mr. Chairman, that condition number 2 is no longer, that waiver is no longer necessary.
Okay, any other discussion on this motion?
Yeah, I would just like to say, I would I would concur with the change in my motion to reflect that, Ron. And I just say, I think as a board, we need to support this. I think they've done their due diligence and worked with us and as we discussed here tonight, that they've come up with a good design, both the site design and the elevations, and it will be a fine addition to our town. And I appreciate the effort that they've gone through. So I think as a board, we need to support this.
Other comments from members of the board? Mr. Pyrick,
Vote aye.
Mr. Chumo,
Aye.
Mrs. Owen,
Aye.
Mr. Fenton,
Aye.
Mr. Nash,
Aye.
and I vote aye. The motion passes. Congratulations, and thank you again for being responsive to our comments.
And thank you for being cooperative with us and giving us the flexibility to address the board's needs. This will be a great project, and we certainly appreciate the support and the advisory recommendation of the planning board. Thank you very much on behalf of the board of directors and the supporters and subscribers to the Y.
Thank you, Mr. Silva. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next item on the agenda is item 4D, a public hearing, proposed amendments to sections 301 and 302, Middletown regulations regarding the subdivision and development of land regarding conservation development submission requirements. We have a motion to open the public hearing.
So
So
moved.
moved, John Shalom.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Mr. Pyrick,
Aye.
Mr. Chumo,
Aye.
Mrs. Owen,
Aye.
Mr. Fenton,
Aye.
Mr. Nash.
Aye.
I vote aye. The public hearing is open. Ron, could you give us an introduction and background?
Sure. So this is an item that was requested, was it at the last meeting, I guess, by the planning board, that we consider making a revision to the regulations to require that when a subdivision application is submitted and a conservation plan is required to be submitted, that that both the conventional and conservation plans, both of which, when a conservation plan is being requested, both plans have to be submitted, that both of those plans include the same number of proposed lots or dwelling units. And, we had this conversation that the board was concerned that they weren't comparing apples to apples when they were looking at two different plans. So the proposed revision is actually quite simple, I think. If you look at, under section 301C, just adding a sentence that I'll read it to you. To facilitate a direct comparison of development options, the submitted conservation plan must include the same number of proposed lots/units as the conventional plan. And then the second change is under 302, which is on page 3 of the memo. And it's basically the same language. So I think Peter's looked at this. I don't know if he wants to comment, but I think it accomplishes what the board was requesting.
I've looked at it. It's very straightforward. I think it does what the board intended it to do.
Comments from members of the board? Mike?
In that section 302, this is just a typo there. It says applicant are, or should that be applicant is.
Better than what's there. Okay, I'll let you go.
What's that?
Yep, that's. I think you're right, Mike. That's a typo.
Could be applicants, plural.
Nico.
Other comments from members of the board?
I think it's very well done.
Other comments? I'm glad to see this proposed. This is, to me, is very important and should make our job a lot easier. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to comment?
I don't see any hands being raised.
None yet?
Nope.
I have a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by BJ, seconded by John. Is there any discussion? Mr. Pirret,
Aye.
Mr. Chumo,
Aye.
Mrs. Owen,
Aye.
Mr. Fenton,
Aye.
Mr. Nash.
Aye.
I vote aye. The public hearing is closed. May I have a motion to send this recommendation to the board, to the town council?
The motion would be to approve the amendment or adopt the amendment to the regulations and then forward to the to the town council for approval. They have to ratify any amendments to the regulations.
Yes. Okay, may I have such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Made by Bill, seconded by BJ. Is there any discussion? Mr. Pirret,
Aye.
Mr. Chumo,
Aye.
Mrs. Owen,
Aye.
Mr. Fenton,
Aye.
Mr. Nash,
Aye.
and I vote aye. The motion passes. The next item on the agenda is item 5A. I'm going to skip 4F for the moment and go to 5A. Everybody with me?
Got it.
Item 5A, a request of James Sullivan for final plan approval of a proposed two-lot subdivision of land fronting on Lewis Drive and Bailey Avenue, identified as 15 Lewis Drive, Assessors Plat 125, Lot 950.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, I'm going to recuse myself on this matter, and Marissa Desautel is here to advise the board.
Who will be our solicitor?
Marissa Desautel is
Oh,
here.
she's here. Okay, very good. Thank you. Is there any, this is not a public hearing or anything, any discussion from members of the board? My understanding is that final plan approval merely requires that all of the requested conditions have been met and verified. Is that correct, Ron? Or Marissa, either one?
Well, the plan needs to be reviewed, the final plan, so I can confirm that a complete application was submitted and that there are 2 proposed conditions of approval for the board's consideration, which you have in your memo from me dated January 4th. And the first one is prior to recording of the final plan, the plans must be revised to include the drainage maintenance easement for the existing catch basin located on proposed lot 1, and the easement document approved by the town solicitor must be recorded in the land evidence records. And then the second condition is adding, or it's not adding a note, but it's requiring compliance with chapters 151 and 153 regarding stormwater management for the development at the time of development. So those are the 2 proposed conditions of final approval. As I said, the application is complete and the board can certainly proceed with considering granting final approval subject to the required findings that are also included in my memo.
But those conditions, those 2 conditions have been met, Ron?
No, these would be conditions of the final approval.
Conditions of the final approval, okay.
Correct.
But the conditions from the preliminary have,
Yeah, any of the conditions from the preliminary approval, aside from these, if those were on there, they've been met.
they were, but that's okay. But I'm okay with it to be a condition of the final.
Yeah.
Any questions for Ron?
The applicant's available as well as the applicant's engineer.
The applicant is here. Any questions for the applicant?
Oh,
May I have a motion for final plan approval, subject to the conditions of the preliminary plan review and those two
No,
items?
the conditions, the conditions contained in the memo, these are two conditions that would be, the final plan approval would be subject to, so don't reference the
Okay, subject to
preliminary
the-
plan.
Subject
Yeah.
to the two conditions in the item memo.
Yeah, I'll make that motion referencing Ron's memo dated January 4th, 2021, and that the applicant has met all the required findings as in the same memo.
Do I
Second,
have a second? BJ has seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Mr. Pyrick,
Aye.
Mr. Chumo,
Aye.
Mrs. Owen,
okay, aye,
Mr. Fenton,
Aye.
Mr. Nash,
Aye.
and I vote aye. The motion passes. Next item on the agenda is item 4F. Review and provide recommendation to the town council on proposed amendments to section 400, definitions and section 725 of the Middletown zoning ordinance regarding ground-mounted solar photovoltaic installation, including design requirements for all arrays and specific provisions for arrays mounted on carports and canopies. Before I open it up, I'll just note that in the memo and new draft, I guess solar photovoltaic installation is now changed to solar energy systems or something like that.
That's right.
Okay, Ron, can you introduce this?
Sure. So this is something we've been working on for a while. We actually, I think, discussed or at least went through some of the highlights at the last meeting. The reason it was continued was to give Peter a chance to take a look at it. And then also, I think this might be since the last meeting or maybe not, but there were some graphics provided that Rita found to give folks an idea of what these solar carports look like. These are, I think, 4 different installations. So if you have those, you can see that. Rita, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
Sure. Yeah. At the last time we discussed this, there were a few comments from the board. Those have been incorporated in, namely making sure that in residential zones, solar carports are an accessory use only. So there was some language added to that. And as Ron noted, some graphics showing commercial use on one page, 4 different graphics of solar carports, and then residential use, both freestanding and attached, which has also 4 different graphics. Beyond that, the draft hasn't changed all that much, just minor tweaks, and it was forwarded to Peter for review, and Peter can chime in if he had any additional comments.
You're muted, Peter.
You're muted.
I did not have any really additional comments with regard to the draft itself. It just really I think just want to make sure that the board was looking at the various different levels of approval and make sure the board felt that those levels of approval for the different types of system were appropriate.
Rita, can I ask, Rita, are these examples you're showing, are they all from Rhode Island or are they very?
No, they're from around the country. In Rhode Island, I'm aware of only a few.
So I think you're showing number 4 is, and maybe number 1, but at least I know number 4 is, that's a Rhode Island property. I know that where that is.
Is that the PUC?
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew they had some. And the one, number 2, that looks very similar, if it's not, to Bristol Community College. They have carports, and that looks very similar to what they have.
Rita, is in the dimension table on page 2, the residential setback was changed from 10 feet to 50 feet. Is that correct?
That's right, Paul. With the concern being the potential impact on abutters in the residential area.
Street view or whatever, street appeal or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just want to comment that I think adding these pictures made a very significant positive impact. I mean, just reading it, I had a totally different image of what these graphics displayed. So it's good that you added them. Very good that you added them.
Yeah, they can be very sizable structures, which is, I think, the reason that we want to make sure that the proper review is done by the town when these things come in.
You know, that's a good point, Paul. That's a lot of people look at this as, not knowing what they're looking at. I wish we could include, frankly, these into our ordinance. I know it's probably not appropriate, but it would be more helpful to people who are looking to do these type of things. It gives that, I think, like you said, you saw it and you immediately almost said, okay, geez, I get it now. Picture's worth 1,000 words. And sometimes I wish, we get too complicated. I know we have to be legal, but I frankly think that having photos speaks volumes sometimes, and I wish we could include it.
Yeah.
BJ?
Yes, I would like to agree with Bob on that. I was very impressed with the photos. And I, like you, had a completely different concept in mind until I saw these and I thought, gee, that's not bad at all. I like it.
Yeah, the only question I'm left with is I don't know why an agricultural facility would put a carport up over ground where they're growing crops. There must be something different.
Well, I think that the thinking would be it would be in their equipment yard. They might store equipment under it.
Thank you. Any other comments on this item? Michael?
Yeah, I was looking at the same thing you are, Paul, that 50-foot setback, number. Now, if the carport or the canopy is butt up against the house, does that still apply?
Yes, it's going to apply to have those carports step back from the side property line. So, or
from all property
lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the concern. It's, even though it might be butt up against the house on the property, that house could be very close to the property line. So we want to maintain distance.
So if you're sort of in an R20 or an R30 district, it seems like you wouldn't be able to put something like this in there because you most likely wouldn't have a property line that you could be that far away from.
Well, R30, R40, sure you would. I think it's more of an R10 where you would have an issue.
Yeah.
R30 is pretty big, so it's,
It is restrictive, but our
I got an
action tonight,
R20.
Ron, would be to set up a public workshop, right?
Right, that would be your action tonight. We're not approving it tonight.
Yeah, and I think we can get some good feedback on that setback distance in a public workshop.
Okay.
Any other comments or discussion? Joe?
I just want to thank Rita. Well done.
yeah, agreed.
It's a great going from 0 to 60 here. It's a great piece of information to get us started. This stuff is coming, whether we like it or not. So
we have someone who's actually coming in very soon with an application, which is probably going to come in before we adopt the ordinance. So yeah, they're definitely coming.
Yeah, good job.
Thank you, Rita.
Yeah, thank you, Rita, absolutely.
Thank you, Rita. We don't need a motion. We just need to agree that you can set up a workshop for this?
That's fine. We can have the minutes reflect that by consensus, the board has asked that we set up or schedule a public workshop, and I'll do my normal thing. I'll get a doodle poll out to you all to see what date might work.
Is that okay with everyone?
Fine with me.
Okay, why don't
Okay.
you do that, Ron, and we can move on to the next agenda item.
Unanimous consent,
Yes, we did that the other day, right?
unanimous consent.
Yes, Bill, thank you.
The next agenda item is item number 6, project 6A, project updates. Does anyone have any comments on project updates?
I do, Paul.
Go ahead, John.
On Monday's marijuana subcommittee meeting, I think we wrapped it up. We made a couple of adjustments at Bill's suggestion, and Dwight and Peter working on the language, and we will be ready to present it to the full planning board.
Very good, very good. We're looking at the project updates at this point rather than committee reports, but that's okay,
Oh, excuse
John.
me.
That's all right, that's
I
okay.
was
That
looking at-
works. Comments on the updates? I would like to make something else. I noticed that item 3 was sent to the town council on September 20th, 2019, well over a year ago. And item 14 was sent to them on September 11th, 2019. Again, well over a year ago. These 2 items can be dealt with quickly. Is there anything we can do to get the town council to address these items?
I can check in with the clerk. Again, she has all of the things that the planning board has forwarded to the council, and it's really up to between the clerk and the council president to decide when these show up on a docket. So I can ask her about it.
I mean, item 3 has to do with mixed use, and I would think the town council would want to get that to a point where it's attractive to developers. And item 14 is just the definition of building height. They've been up there for more than a year.
I'll check in on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments
Paul?
on the project updates? Michael?
Yeah, what you just mentioned, Paul, I thought I heard some town council members talk about, wanting to make that a priority for their coming, town council sessions, So I would assume that they'd be open to having that thing addressed pretty quickly.
Well, see what you can do, Ron.
I will.
Thank you. Any other comments on project updates?
Tree
Let's see.
commission.
Well, we haven't got to the.
Oh, we
report yet.
haven't got,
Okay,
sorry.
that's all right. Now we can move on. I assume there's nothing new on BRAC.
I have nothing new.
Yeah. Committee reports. I assume the use table is, subcommittee is still on hold.
Yep.
We've heard from John on the marijuana subcommittee. Joe, do you have anything on the build out impacts subcommittee? Has anything happened with that yet?
Yeah, Ron circulated a memo and we're trying to pin down the dates, right, Ron?
Yep, I think, Mike, we were just waiting to get a response from you to schedule that subcommittee meeting. We're looking at early mid next week, 20th or the 22nd or something like that.
Mike, can you respond to that? It's kind of important that we move that along.
Which one was
Who,
it?
me?
Yeah,
Yes.
you're on the subcommittee. I sent out a couple of emails asking for availability for the subcommittee meeting.
Okay, you're talking to me, are you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I responded to both those emails saying when I was available.
I didn't get them.
What was it? Was it that little subroutine that you had in there or something like that? Or, I mean, I just responded to the emails like everybody else did. If you look at the string, that for that email, I responded twice with what when I was available. Basically, I'm available.
All right.
Anytime you want.
Okay, well then I'll go back and look at my emails, but if you're saying any of those dates work, I'll go back and just double check, and I'll get an email out to you all to schedule it.
What subcommittee was that again?
This is the build out study.
The impact build outs subcommittee.
We're going to meet with
Tree
Steve.
Commission, BJ.
Yes, I have some exciting news. At least I think it's exciting. We have, with the Tree Commission, has a plaque, which is a brass plaque, and I have a copy of it here. If you can picture it as brass colored, and it literally is this size. Can you read it at all, or is it backwards?
Memory of Carolyn Lagerman.
Yes.
A friend to all our memories. Memories are all happy. Something like that.
A friend to all.
Right, it says, this is the plaque, it's brass, and this is the actual size of it. And this is on a tree in the Valley Park, and it was just planted this past week. The tree was, and also the plaque. And it says, it gives the woman's name, the dates, and it says, a friend to all, our memories are all happy ones. And this will be available for people who want to have something for a memorial, perhaps. And it will be a tree planted in the park. So far, it's been shared, I think, with Sean Brown and the members of the Tree Commission. And everyone is very excited about it. It's beautifully done and it will last, and it's being put on a stake that is cemented into the ground in front of the tree.
Are you saying that is something that's available to anyone?
Yes.
And what do? Put a request into the Tree Commission?
No. Well, first of all, it goes to the Tree Commission. It has to go to a committee. There is a memorial committee of which Karen is part of. And this memorial committee will also pass it to the town council. So it has to go through the town council too. And I'm not certain if this is something that has to go to the DEM. I'm not certain about that, but there is a procedure and it does take a while, but it has been shortened by the work of the Tree Commission. They've worked hard on that.
DJ, it looks wonderful. I hope my name never gets to your committee though.
At least not too soon anyway, right?
Well, it is lovely, I have to say. It really, really is. And they have worked hard and they are raising funds, and they have already quite a nice big grant to plant more trees down there. And they're going to put a new walkway in, and it will be at starting at Adelaide Street, which is on High Street, but as you come in from Memorial, and it's going to be laid out by the committee, by the Tree Commission. And I would like to give kudos also to Alan Kirby, who at his own time and expense has put up guard rails, if that's what I call them anyway, on all the young trees to prevent deer from eating them. So, and this he has done at his own time and his own expense. And I'm not talking just 2 or 3 trees.
Don't let the Conservation Commission know that you're preventing the deer from eating.
That's true.
I hear nothing.
At the same time, she's saving a tree.
Oh, what are we picking here? Pick one or the other.
I think that's very exciting, BJ. Thank you for that report.
I'm really thrilled.
Open space and fields, Mike.
Okay, before that, I wanted to mention, like last night they had the RIAC had that public meeting on the future, their plans for the airport.
Yeah,
So I don't know if, if our subcommittee for generating, any, what do you call it? Some ordinances, for protecting the flight paths is still open or not, but certain things came up there that might be relevant to that meeting. So, I mean, there is something in, in the General Assembly where they're going to try to vote on some sort of a bill to allow, I guess, the state maybe to take over some properties that might have obstructions for runways, and maybe settle some of those issues that that we had. And of course, right now, there are some obstructions on some runways that's going to cause those runways to be restricted. They're going to be shortened, basically, and then if they're shortened to a certain extent, then there's certain FAA type of grants for equipment and things like that that are going to be withdrawn, from their use. So, Joe, did you have a chance to participate in that meeting?
I did not, but I've been trying to do some research on it to follow up on the points that you're making today. So, yeah. I think we need to huddle up as a group and discuss that.
Because we still have a requirement to put together some ordinances that require some zoning ordinances, right? That
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Basically restrict, certain types of development or I guess vegetation growth in those areas.
right now, that's awaiting a workshop, and you wanted to wait until we could have in-person meetings, Joe. Is that something you'd rather move forward to a Zoom meeting?
Yeah, I think it should be polled by the others on the subcommittee, and Ron, your input as well. But yeah, I'm fine with moving it to a Zoom.
Well, why don't you get your subcommittee together, decide what you want to do, and then let Ron know if you want to schedule something,
So,
meeting, or bring it back to the full board.
Paul,
Okay.
if I might, that the ordinance has already been forwarded to the planning board, so it's in your court as a full board. So it's you, as a board, you can decide right now if you want to have that public workshop held as a Zoom meeting.
Well, I think it's worth it, given the situation with the airport. What do you think, Joe? You're the chair. Do you think we should do that?
I say, let's take a poll right now of my other subcommittee members, and I would recommend that we move to a Zoom meeting in public workshop now.
Mm-hmm. May
Who's
I?
on that? Mike, you on that, right? BJ?
Yeah, I saw the entire meeting too. And it was very interesting that the Middletown Airport, the Newport Airpark, is losing money compared to the other airports, other 6 airports in the state. And I found that very interesting. I think.
Yeah, I saw that too, BJ, when I was in the meeting. I was surprised.
Yeah, I was too. But I think it would be very easy, from what the woman who conducted the meeting said, to have a review of what was said at that meeting, and we can ask specific questions like Mike had.
Well, that's a different meeting you're talking about. We were just talking about having a public workshop on the draft ordinance.
Oh, okay. Do we have the draft ordinance?
The board received that several months ago.
Oh, I don't recall that.
Well, if we had a public workshop, would this topic come up as influencing that ordinance?
If someone brings it up, yes.
And I'm guessing that Joe or Mike or BJ could bring it up.
I'll try to find out the information that was sent out to us.
So do you feel we should go forward with a Zoom workshop?
Who are you
Yes.
asking?
Well, essentially, the subcommittee, they all indicated positively. I know it's before the full board. They know the topic best. Why don't we schedule a Zoom workshop, Ron?
Okay.
So Paul, on that same note, if we can, we might need to start taking a kind of a tally of this, because I think, John, maybe we need to go back to the marijuana subcommittee, because I think we're ready to, maybe not for the public workshop, but I think, are we ready to bring that back? And I guess my only point, though, is that I don't disagree that we need to have the airport subcommittee Zoom, and I would support that, but I think we have a couple of others on our plate.
The marijuana ordinance has to come to the full board first.
I think we want to do that soon, though, John. Am I right? Or Peter?
Yes.
They want to.
Yes, and plus there's going to, I believe there's going to have to be public meetings about it, and then it goes to the town council. And the town council, Ron, did I hear you recommend we'd like to get it to them in February?
They're looking for it in March.
In March.
So
And
half of
that's on,
January is gone.
yeah, and that's on the idea that we expect there to be some movement in the General Assembly,
Right, that's
potentially
right.
with regard to legalization this year. So the idea was to get this to if the planning board could receive it and then hold a workshop on it during the month of February, we could then get it to the council for their consideration in March.
John, you think you could get it to our next board meeting?
Well, Peter and Dwight.
We have some very minor tweak that
Yep.
I can probably take care of tomorrow. So no problem getting it to the board for the next meeting to receive. And then the question is, when do you want to schedule a separate workshop for that? Because
That was my point. I think
a
some
fair amount of public-
priority things. There are some
Joe, did you
priority
have a
issues.
comment?
Yeah. Thank you, Peter.
Joe?
And Bill, thank you.
Well, I was just going to say on this whole airport subcommittee, I recall, and I don't remember the exact date, but we had a public workshop at Town Hall. I think it was maybe the fall of 2019, where we went over and reviewed various items, and then things got delayed, COVID hit, here we are. So we've already had one public workshop, so this would be a continuation, Ron, I think, to kind of take our draft ordinance and try to get it finalized, right?
Yeah, and I don't know that we did a full public outreach for that meeting, but what we would
Oh,
need
I
to
think
do
we
for
did.
this next meeting is do a mailing to all of, well, we'd have to decide.
Yeah, I think we did read it, didn't we? We abutters within a certain,
I think
within that airport protection zone and all that.
I'm not sure if we did, because I know if we did, we would have a room full of people. So
we did.
that's,
We had a few people
room
there.
full of People.
yeah, well,
Was that a subcommittee meeting, Joe, or a full
Yeah.
board meeting? Well, but the full board has to have a
Yeah.
workshop.
Yeah.
So-
I think it was a subcommittee meeting, but there was some public people there.
Right.
It wasn't really open to the public, but we allowed them to say something, we allowed them to make some comments.
I don't think we
let's,
did. I don't think we did a full public outreach for that meeting.
Okay, all right.
So I guess,
So let's schedule one, Ron.
can I just ask Ron, though, and all of us, to keep kind of a tally of where we're kind of committing to some extended time here as a planning board relative to having some workshops. Don't we have a couple of already in our hopper, Ron, or stuff that we need to get done? I mean, obviously we want to take care of it all, but this is the thing with Zoom is, those are going to be long meetings, at least with the marijuana, it will be.
Well, on the agenda, there's a list of upcoming meetings, and right now it's just showing the February 10th regular meeting.
So we've already, just tonight, we're going to have a public workshop on the solar carports, public workshop. Well, we didn't talk about it tonight necessarily, but on marijuana, and then public workshop on airport.
So what you're
And on the full build out, right?
Space these out. Yeah, let's just move the ones along quickly that need to be moved quickly and space the other ones out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Conservation Commission.
All right, I'll try and be super brief. This past Monday night, Conservation Commission met. There was one item on the agenda, and I'll summarize it. Private residence, Third Beach Road. We were evaluating construction of a concrete stair and landing where they were adding 36 square feet in a zone 1 watershed area, and it was unanimously approved. It was a 4.5 minute start to finish Conservation Commission meeting.
We're on Third Beach Road.
Oh, you were gonna ask me that. I don't know. It's a lovely home somewhere on off Third Beach Road. I don't have my notes in front of me, but
Is this the one that the planning board reviewed a couple of months ago?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
yeah, I mean, it was really, it was.
This,
Everyone considered it minor, and
where they're putting the kitchen extension in?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, that's the,
Okay.
yeah. And so they have this little landing and stairway that
Oh, yeah.
corner cut into this little
Yep.
zone, and I think there were 15 drops of water that might run in, and it's like, okay.
By the way, Mike, you commented on the airport when we were doing open space and fields. Is there anything with open space and fields going on?
We had a field meeting where we were checking out potential new accesses to those trails that are down there, down in that Hugendorn area. And I guess the idea was to put together a proposal, so that we could qualify for a grant. So I don't know what, I had to back out of it because they got into swampy area and I wasn't able to climb through it all. So I got to wait for the next meeting, which is next week. So to see what happened.
That grant's been submitted, Mike, just for your information. The council approved us to submit the grant. So the planning staff, Rita, completed the grant, drafting the grant and submitting it to DEM. So it's in.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay.
Art is not here to report on the Aquidneck Island Planning Commission. We already talked about upcoming meetings. Is there anything else to come before the planning board this evening? BJ?
yeah, I would like to just comment on something that I don't know if Mark Brennan is responsible for it, but across from my home on Forest Avenue is Bluegrass Drive, and he built and is with his father, the homes, the 11 homes there. And all of a sudden I looked out and he's redoing the stone walls. And this man is there and he's doing it the proper way without any cement or anything. I was absolutely amazed. I thought, my goodness gracious, accolades.
Good. Mike, did you have something?
Well, I was curious, some of the items that we passed recently, I was looking around the town and I was trying to see if there was any progress or any work being done on them, or, if these things were going forward. I was looking at, maybe that there was that one development, that was, I forget what the name of the street is now. It's off of Aquidneck Avenue. I didn't see any work getting started there. I thought we had kind of approved that.
Morrison Ave.
And what's that?
Morrison Avenue, Mike.
Yeah, right. I didn't see it. And then I found out that okay, so our planning board rejected the what was it, the Goldstein development, but it got I guess it got approved by the zoning board anyway. And is there any what happens now? I mean, does it come back to us, or do we or do they have approval to get started on that?
What will happen on that, Mike, is that assuming that a further appeal is not taken to the Superior Court from the zoning board, it would eventually come back to you for final approval. If the abutters take a further appeal to the Superior Court, it will spend some time up there and then it'll eventually come back. depending upon the outcome of that decision.
And I also see that, you know, some of the emails that we've been getting from Ron, there's a lot of people that are, I guess, hiring lawyers to appeal some of the, you know, some of the decisions we made, especially, you know, on that Haran development down on Green and the Avenue. I mean, how are we to, what do we do about that? Is that something we just take for information or what?
You're not required to do anything. The staff has submitted to the zoning board, well, they're called the Planning Board of Appeals in this situation, the record from the planning board's review of that application. So it's in the court of the Planning Board of Appeals, which is the zoning board. And I believe it's scheduled on their next regular meeting to receive that appeal. I don't think they'll hear it that night. I think they'll end up scheduling a special meeting to have the hearing. So there's nothing for the board to do, nothing for the planning board to do.
Ron, if
Okay.
if the zoning board overrides our decision, what happens? Does it come back to us for master plan approval?
If the zoning board overturns,
We gave master plan approval,
right.
and that's what's being appealed,
If
right?
that's, and I know Peter can't talk about this because he's recused. My understanding would be that if the Planning Board of Appeals overturns that master plan approval, then that results in a denial of the master plan.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree.
So the applicant would have to go back and resubmit something.
Yeah, they would have that ability to come back with a revised
Revised
application.
master plan, yeah.
Okay, anything else to come up before Bill?
Yeah, I have a question. February 10th is our next meeting. Ron, I see advertised, we have 2 people that are up for renewal. Might we lose any of those people? Nobody's termed off yet, are they? Are we, do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I think BJ is one of those. What, Paul, you're up for reappointment too?
Yes, the 2 of us.
I don't think either of you are against the 3-term limit.
What was the question?
You're allowed to serve 3 consecutive terms on the planning board.
No, I haven't had 3 terms consecutively this time.
How about you, Paul?
I've done 2, so
Yeah, so you're good.
Another possible
I'm
one.
2 too. Also,
I hope you both put back in so you can come back and join us.
thank you.
Stay with us.
Thank you.
Anything else to come up before the board? May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Motion's made and second to adjourn. Is there any discussion? Mr. Pyrick,
Aye.
Mr. Chumo,
aye.
Mrs. Owen,
Aye.
Mr. Fenton,
Aye.
Mr. Nash.
Aye, thank you all.
I vote aye. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much for your participation and support. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Everyone,
Aye.
stay safe.
Take care, everyone.